What highly illegal thing took place at your high school? NSFW. 2 students planned and carried out a coordinated attack on one of the math teachers by waiting by the top of the stairs between periods, and when he passed by them to go down the steps, one of them pushed him from behind while the other put his leg out to trip him. The teacher fell down the steps and broke his neck and back and was paralyzed from the neck down. The kid's reasoning: because one of them was dropped from the basketball team because he was failing that teacher's math class. Both of them were 15 years old, so they didn't get jail time. They both got expelled and were sent to juvenile detention. The teacher sued the school district and got a settlement in the lower 7-digit range. Our football coach took off with one of the girls in the high school and moved to Mexico and married her. He had a wife and kids. They then hired a brand new football coach who was 23 years old. Before the end of his first year, he was hooking up with an 18-year-old senior girl. They also took off and went somewhere. We went without a coach for a couple years. My golf coach got arrested in Kansas for driving with a spare tire full of cocaine. I interviewed to teach at a high school once. One of the questions from the school board was, can you avoid sleeping with your students? Me: yes I can. School board thinks I'm great. Principal thinks I'm great. Superintendent of schools doesn't think I'm cut out for the job. Gives me the runaround. Principal is trying to help me push through it and get hired, but I finally give up and get a normal job elsewhere. Superintendent hires his nephew. Wonder why he gave me the runaround? Who promptly has set with a student and gets fired. I still see the principal occasionally. He always apologizes. I wanted to hire you. He's way too nice to have been stuck at that lousy school. The principal was facing students. A few years after I graduated, some parents found out and took him to court. He hanged himself before he could be convicted. Edit. Corrected the word from hung. My history teacher had set with a 15-year-old girl, but she didn't admit it for at least a decade. He was a good teacher and I liked his class, but he's gonna rot in jail for the rest of his life. The middle school gym teacher who inappropriately touched lots of preteen girls, who promptly told on him, got the teensiest slap on the wrist, and that was that. Over spring break one year, the entire hockey team and the cheerleaders all went to rehab. The goalie was dealing coke to all of them. My teacher was molesting my 14-year-old classmate for a while. He went to jail and is still there 20 years later because another past victim came forward. So that's pretty illegal. Knew a guy that sold cocaine in class and tried to offer a girl pot to sleep with him. There was also some public underage set in one of the halls that lead to a girl starving herself until she miscarried. Drama teacher slept with the hottest chicks in class and nothing ever happened to him. The reason nothing came of it is because the girls were consenting and never told anyone. To them it was a fling that they chose. But as an adult now you look back at a guy in his 30s sleeping with at least 2 16-year-olds, and criminal is the only word that comes to mind. He was the coolest guy in the room to women and even to most of the guys. But my group was always like, this guy is too cool. Something doesn't feel right here. His ability to shape-shift seamlessly between being a teacher authority figure and a peer was impressive at the time. Now I would probably see right through it, and obviously aided by some oblivious parenting that allowed the girls free rein to rehearse plays as much as they wanted, including at his house. I don't think they knew about this, including Saturday nights until 2 to 3 a.m. Sometimes one-on-one. Seems insane now, but cult of personality can get you a lot of rights that you wouldn't have otherwise. Murder. A kid in the grade ahead of me murdered his sister behind my high school. An acquaintance of mine helped him bury the body. A film crew lied about what kind of film they were making. Turns out it was porn. So my high school is the setting of the film The Cheerleaders. Pretty sure that's illegal. Yeah, it's pretty tame. What do you want from me? I live in Cupertino. We had a softball coach sleep with his students. But a far more interesting story that didn't technically take place on school grounds. There was this kid who was constantly being harassed by bullies. They would even follow him after school and attack him. So there was this hardware store across the street and a lot of kids would hang out in the parking lot after school. The bullies chased the kid inside and cornered him in the garden section. They kept hitting and kicking him, so the dude grabbed an axe from one of the shelves and just started swinging. All the bullies ended up in the hospital with various injuries. Security camera got the whole thing, but I can't remember now if Gimli, son of Glowing, was charged or if it was ruled self-defense. Update: I followed up with my sister who actually knew the kids involved better than me. She was closer to their age. The news articles that came out at the time didn't really talk about the pattern of abuse that led to the axe kicking, but she did confirm that Gimli was sent to juvenile corrections for a while. She remembered when he got out, and as far as she knew, he was doing well. I've posted about this before, but some kids in our business club were so enterprising they started counterfeiting money, which resulted in the Secret Service showing up to investigate. Had a guy selling heroin. After that there was a weekly police presence. Also, a kid bound the girl to a chair, gagged her and stuffed her in a cupboard in the woodworking shop. He claims it was to help her complete the sponsored silence she had been doing that day. One of the old teacher's aides got arrested for child porn and filming the elementary kids' bathroom. A bunch of the guys had a fight club. It had been going on for years, no face hits, and there was a 18 group, so if they got caught nobody got assault on a minor charges. It was actually really well planned and had been going on for years, until one dumbass junior broke the first rule of Fight Club and posted a video. A bunch of kids got suspended. I think a couple of the seniors got probation or deferment. A teacher was caught having sex with an autistic student. I believe the student claimed to have loved her. Her dad was also a teacher at the same school and he left after the incident came out. Edit. Teacher was female, student was male. We had a science teacher say, if you don't put goggles on, I'm going to have to spray you in the eyes with Lysol, which was probably not illegal until the student tried to call her bluff. She wasn't bluffing. There were 4 freshmen in the bathroom stall just vaping, and a teacher came in, so they freaked out and didn't want to get in trouble, so they thought calling the cops on the teacher for harassment would get them out of trouble. They got expelled an hour after the cops arrived. The cheerleaders got caught selling morphine. The football team got into a brawl with a rival school at a local pizza place over said morphine scandal. A huge fiasco over a kid putting baking soda and vinegar in a test tube and sealing it and taping it under a lunch table till it exploded. 6 or so years ago, before Juuls were even a concept, a buddy of mine would buy disposable e-cigarettes online in bulk, then sell them to the other students at a huge profit margin. He did this all the way through graduation and never got caught somehow. Dude had to have made at least $10K over time doing that. He was the plug and sold those things like there was no tomorrow. There was also the geometry teacher who got caught sending dick pics to freshmen. I have absolutely no idea how, but he somehow managed to keep his job. Had a pretty controversial case involving a handicapped student who had cerebral palsy and muscular dystrophy. His parents filed a lawsuit accusing 2 of his handlers of abusing him by dumping him out of his chair and forcing him to wear a neck brace so he'd look them in the eye. Worst part was, I don't think the handlers suffered any consequences. I looked up articles on it and all of them highlight the abuse and lawsuit, but none follow through with the results, which is frustrating. The principal hired a bunch of students to sell steroids at the local gym. Same principal gave the same students a list of kids who were questioning their sexuality with the counselor, before GSAs were a thing, and they all had their lockers bashed in with a baseball bat. One of the kids had his parents notified and was beat within an inch of his life. Our teacher used to hotbox her classroom and then used the kiln fan to pull all the smoke out. A teacher sexually harassed like 12 students. The issue is everybody loved that guy. He won Best Teacher award like 2 days before his arrest. P.S. No, this isn't Persona 5, this actually did happen. I'm not making a clever joke about Kamoshida, although I probably would have. This was a real guy, one Mr. Chu. Football team had an incident where somehow a Gatorade bottle ended up going up a freshman's butt. Not highly illegal, but not legal either. I figured out how to make fake IDs in my home darkroom and showed a friend how to do it. This was in the early 70s, before Photoshop, when analog darkrooms and chemical-based photography were the only option. He went into production in the school darkroom. His quality sucked. He got caught. My quality was excellent, but I only made one for me. Pre-internet days, kinda, CDs were a thing. I had a massive CD collection in a gigantic book in my locker. I typed up lists of all the artists and albums I owned. So I had these flyers everywhere, and for $3 a CD I'd burn you a copy. This was right when CD burners came out, and my stepdad was super into the latest and greatest tech, so we had the cool gadgets when they came out. I eventually was caught, but for a time I made killer money. Kids were selling candy and snacks to other students, obliterating the monopoly that that the vending machines once held an administration cut that sit out real quick. A teacher and an administrator embezzled millions. I didn't even know all this happened until years after graduation. Some of my friends had the teacher in question. A mentally handicapped student beat up a teacher while yelling, "Where's my cookie?" The cool gang of kids, not me, I've never been anywhere near cool, got into a dare contest which ended up with one of them having to get a pair of knickers from a particular girl. She didn't want to play the game, so he ended up cornering her in a boy's toilet and cutting them off her with a knife. We never saw him at the school again. All games were banned. A special ed kid got jumped by a dude on his way to school and was beaten bloody. The whole thing was recorded by the guy's girlfriend and her friend. The whole time they were cheering him on, yelling things like "World Star" and so on. She later posted it on Instagram, which pissed off everyone, and just about everyone wanted to beat the dude up in the video. He was given temporary suspension, facing BS, while the police took care of him. From what I know, he was given an assault charge. Also, side note, there was a girl at my school who was in minor league boxing who was ready to beat him up. She even tried looking for him by his house. 1. A teacher got banned from the school district because he put all of the big-chested female students at the front of his classes and stared at them. 2. A teacher got suspended for telling a black kid to go kill himself. 3. A guy used to wander around the parking lot asking anyone who walked by, "Cocaine? Want some cocaine?"